Hey guys, welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. My name is James Haskell, and why did I just say my name? I'm pretty sure you guys know my name at this point, but this is Glenn Martin. You can see our names on the screen. Welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. Kind of a last minute live option. We figured we'd go live for you guys, talk to you about some of the seemingly smaller deals and smaller moves the Ravens have made, talk about our feelings about free agency so far, talk about the wide receiver market, get your thoughts on all things Ravens thus far. So we're excited to get into it. Glenn, this is kind of where this is. Hey, Chris and Madre, appreciate the shout out on the setup. You see that, Glenn?
Yeah. They liking it?
Yeah, man. I'm glad.
Nice.
I'm glad you're liking it. I'm a self-proclaimed professional when it comes to this stuff. No, not a professional at all. Just wanted to put some stuff together and
figure it out as we go.
That's right, man. One step at a time. Look, when
it goes is Jimmy figures it out and then he walks me through it like I'm a child.
No,
it's okay, but that is exactly how it happens.
No, do you not remember when we started and you and I were just getting used to using Twitter?
Oh my, we didn't even have a social, neither of us had any social media platforms until this. So that's why we don't have an Instagram, even though people keep saying, why don't you have an Instagram? That's why, because we don't know what we're doing, but we're figuring it out as we go. But yeah, I know there's, the first wave, I guess, is over in free agency, if that's what you want to call it. The initial guys are gone, but there's still a ton of big names out there that are still of interest. And I'm going to start with LJ Fort getting released, and it came as a bit of a surprise, and there's no guarantee that he's not going to come back. They save, I think, 2.5 against the cap with his release, but of course they could incur some cap if they decide to bring him back at a lesser rate. But my whole question, Jimmy, is because typically when they decide to release a guy, the Ravens are good about letting them know early. That way they can hit the free agency as soon as it starts, and they don't let guys, hang them out to dry, basically.
Right.
But Ford, they didn't really necessarily hang him out to dry, but they didn't let him know as quickly that they were going to be doing this. This was kind of a little later than normal. So do you think that is because they had all of a sudden somebody pop up that they were now targeting, or maybe a guy they didn't initially think they had a shot at? All of a sudden now the market is lower on him and maybe they have a chance. What's your thoughts on LJ Fort being?
That's exactly what I think, Glenn. I mean, look, the Ravens are not going to do this for no reason. I think they see the value in LJ Fort. I'm interested to see who it would be as far as, the person that they're targeting. But I do absolutely believe that. I think that Eric DaCosta is in pounce mode, right? Remember in Lion King when Simba's learning how to pounce?
Yes.
Like Eric DaCosta is right there. He's all prepped. I think he's going to pounce soon. I think that we're going to see something soon that might be more worth a social media uproar, if you will. Something to be trending. I don't know what. I mean, you've crushed my dreams on Kenny Golladay. And I know he's going to visit with – who's he going to visit with? The Giants and the Bengals. Look, dude, if you go to the Bengals, best of luck to you. If you go to the Giants, they're both dumpster fires. Say what you want about Joe Burrow. I think he's good, but they have no
the sad thing is I think that I see more of a future with the Bengals right now than I do with the Giants. I mean, I don't know what their plan is, but they need a lot of help, and giving $21 million to Leonard Williams is going to make it tougher to get help around Danny Dimes.
Yeah. Well, one thing I got to say, though, Phil, is that saying the Ravens haven't done anything in the past 3 days might be a little harsh. Let's see, unless you're including today, right? Because if you're including Thursday, Wednesday, and Tuesday.
But not much has gone on the last 2 days around the league.
Yeah, we have. Now, the one thing I will say is we have seen some moves that you and I have both kind of scratched our heads about and thought, man, the Ravens could have made that deal. For example, Hassan Reddick. We thought, maybe.
Yeah, what do you get, 1 year, $8 million from Carolina?
Yeah, and I think that's with incentives. It's very incentive laden.
It's like 5 base.
Yeah. So you think, the Ravens could have done that, and then you also think about who's the receiver? Marvin Jones Jr. And we talked about that before, but $9 million guaranteed over 2 years, $14.5 million for the full term of the contract. You start to think the Ravens could have done something like that. So what are your feelings overall? Like if it stopped right now, no other signings are had. What's your grade on it, Glenn?
Well, if no other signings are made, then it would not be a very good grade. Because I mean, you're telling me then you're going into with this group at edge, and that's the big concern for me. Because we had Sarah Ellison on last night, and she kind of made it seem at least a bit more hopeful that Orlando Brown might be willing to accept the fact that timing just isn't right now, and that he might end up being able to play, being fine playing right tackle for his last season of his contract. So right now, going into the season, I'd be okay with the offensive line. I'm not thrilled about it, but a combination of Colon Castillo and Macari at center, and then the rest of the guys around him, I think is a solid offensive line if they all remain healthy. Big if.
Right.
But even if they're healthy, their edge position is just, it's not good. I mean, it's just not good. I mean, they might be okay against, stopping the run, but as far as rushing the passer, it's going to have to be another season where Wink Martindale is drawing up more, a blitz where they're sending more than you're blocking with. And that's the only way we're getting home. And we're going to continue to be dead last in pass rush with just the 4 down linemen. And that's not good. I mean, I know it's been a long time since we've had a dominant pass rusher. And I mean, I guess it hasn't been that long, but since Terrell Suggs, but
it's been a long time since Suggs was truly dominant too, right? Like he was still above average because of the completeness with which he played the game.
Yeah.
But him being truly dominant, you know what I mean? Right. It's been a while.
And we know how big that is to be able to get through with just 4 guys going. And it doesn't seem like the Ravens can get through without at least 6 being sent. And it's nerve-wracking and that's with Judon and Unique. I saw somebody in our comments saying that the Ravens weren't good at getting to the quarterback last year with those guys. And I'm not sure exactly if they were saying, so that makes them not worried but to me, if you can't get home with better guys, I mean, because Judon and Unique are better than what we have left in Baltimore as a pass rushers. I mean, they just are. And that's why they got paid as well as they did in free agency. So if you're telling me you're counting on the draft 100%, that's a dangerous thing to do because we know that it's no guarantees.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm with you there. I think a lot of people are catching our fade, Glenn. They're wanting Justin Houston. I see a couple names.
That's the name that's out there that I think would be a big addition. I mean, Melvin Ingram's out there, but with his injury history, let's see, the projection right now is 2 years, $20 million with 16 total guarantees. And 14 guaranteed at signing. I don't know if they can fit that. They basically what they have to do, they got to make a decision on Brandon Williams, man. I mean, I think they got to extend him. I mean, that's got to get that done. Got to get that done and clear out some more space because man, it's tight right now. And I'm looking around at the market and I just don't see a ton outside of Houston, Melvin Ingram. Let's see. KJ Wright is out there, but how much?
Isn't Kerrigan still out there?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, somebody did bring up Kerrigan, and I'm curious why he's so far down the list. And here's another guy and I'm going to get back to Kerrigan. But Carlos Dunlap's a guy I'm sure they can afford. Yep. They're projecting him a 1 year, 7.5 guaranteed, with incentives up to 9 is the projection. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this here with Adam. And I'm glad you brought this up, Adam. Sorry, Glenn, I don't mean to change gears.
No, I see.
But he said, what about last night? Cheap trade last night. Josh Oliver, he's injury prone. Does this mean they ain't interested in Hurts? So just so you guys know, we have our Jags Wire insider coming on to join the show for about 10 minutes to talk about Josh Oliver at 6:30. So make sure you stay tuned. And keep it locked in so that way you guys can get some insider information on him as well. Yeah. But Glenn, to that point, we'll get back to pass rusher, but we talked about this as soon as it went down last night. And I just want to tell you what comes to my mind. I don't want to get too much in the evaluation of the player because honestly, like we know his draft stuff but I'm interested to see what our guy has to say tonight about him because he's obviously spent more time watching him than us. Mm-hmm. But I initially thought a couple things. One, so just like Sarah said, I saw her tweet. So it's a conditional pick. If the Ravens cut him, they keep their pick, right? Yeah. He's a former 3rd round pick. If we keep him, we give up, I think, a 7th, right?
Yeah. A conditional 7th next year.
Right. Yes. 2022. Yeah. So, and then if we keep him, if we cut him, we get the pick back. So really no risk there to me at all. No. And I think that he's a former 3rd rounder. This smells to me like a guy that Eric DaCosta had targeted, maybe not that high. Mm-hmm. And he said, you know what, let's go right this wrong. Yeah. Let's go get our guy. Not that he's going to be our number 1 or anything, but a guy that we had targeted to be a Raven, and let's go right this wrong for a very cheap pick and bring him in. So, but, and I also, to finish the point, I'll let you answer here as well, is I do think if he stays that, I think the tight end conversation is over.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess so. But at the same point, you just made that if they don't like what they're seeing, they can obviously move on from him and incur no penalties whatsoever. So,
right.
Let's see. Looks like that's scary. That's pressure daddy. I like it. Yeah, he's not sack daddy. At best, he's pressure daddy right now. But yeah, I think that it's a low risk move of a guy who does a lot of what Ravens fans right now are wanting out of the addition that they're hoping for comes on the offense. And that's a guy who has good ball skills. Everything I'm reading says that he's excellent at plucking the ball out of the air, going up and getting those 50-50 balls.
You got to teach him the word, dude. You got to teach him the word you invented last night.
Oh yeah. He's got snatchability. The man can snatch the ball right out the air. He's got it. And so they said his biggest weakness right now is route running. Well, who did the Ravens just bring in? Is the two most renowned route running instructors basically in the college ranks in T. Martin and Keith Williams. So I think that they're thinking that those guys can fix the route running issues, and if they can do that, he has the natural ball skills. You can teach route running. You can coach route running. It seems awfully hard to coach a guy to high point a ball. And to play, with his size or play above his size, but this guy wouldn't need to play much above it. I think he can play with it. But so yeah, I'm interested with what Glenn Irby has to say. He obviously saw him at a much more up close and personal view. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's actually James Johnson. Glenn Irby is our Eagles guy. Is it? Yeah. Man, I got tripping. Yeah. No, for sure. Sorry about that, James. And you missed one back a bit, Jimmy. Which one? Go Man, I think it was. What is it? Yeah, Go Man. Shout out with the super sticker. We appreciate it, man. And Go Man's always in the comments. So I know that he likes to throw out the hypothetical trades all the time. So I like it big time. And then Phil, of course, I think he agrees with us on this one that it's all low risk, high reward. Look, I mean, this kid, when you read his report, he's got the athleticism. And like you said, I firmly believe that just like defense in basketball, some guys are more naturally, they're more instinctively, they're better at defense instinctively and naturally, but you can teach it, right? It can be taught. Right. Effort can be, but the technician, the technical part of it can be taught and honed in on and improved. And I think route running is absolutely the same. There's some guys that take to it very naturally, and you can see it in their game. I mean, from the time they're kids, but even when they come out into the league, they're already polished. But you can teach it. Yep. The things you can't teach. I think the guy's 6'5", 250. He can go up and he's got snatch ability. Those things to me are hard to teach. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah, absolutely. And it's like they said, low risk. It's just like Phil said, low risk, high reward. Yeah. If he gets hurt again, bye. That's right. That's how it is. And even if he makes the roster, it's just like their first pick of next year if they decide to keep him. It's like they already used it on this guy, so it's their 7th round pick of next year, and they took this guy. So right, yeah, but it's not moving much. It's not moving the needle very much. Yeah. So let's get back to the pass rushers though, Glenn, because I know you were talking about that. Yeah. And I am starting to be just as scared as you are at this point. I'm really interested to see what they do. So you have Justin Houston, you have Carlos Dunlap, you have Kerrigan, you have a few other names. You mentioned, Chargers guy, Ingram out there. Yep. But who do you realistically see being signed, if anyone? Do you think there's any way? I think it's Dunlap. You think it's Dunlap? I think it ends up being Dunlap because of the familiarity, because there's already been smoke, pointing me towards him that they've had, interest in one another. So I think it ends up being, and I think that with his age, his, I get, slight decline in his play. I mean, I think it's fair to say that he had a decline in his play. I don't think it's, anything crazy. I think he'd still be the best pass rusher on our team if we got him. But yeah, I would have to say it's going to end up being Dunlap because his age makes him probably the right price. Yeah. And do you remember the question that you asked me at the beginning? I'm trying to remember what it was. Because I wanted to ask the question back to you. What was the very first question that you asked me? I asked you about LJ Ford if they had someone in mind. If we had a guy in mind. Right, exactly. Right. So yep. I love that question. What do you think? Do you think it's as simple as
Like, do you think that there's something big brewing? I guess that's the question I would, to kind of, add on to your question. How big is it that they see the need to cut a guy like LJ Fort? How big is the move that you see coming in order for them to cut a guy like LJ Fort? You see what I'm saying? Because to me, I don't think that's an easy thing. And like you said, the Ravens try and do that early. It sounds like it's something that wasn't planned. It's a little impromptu because there's something brewing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could be that they still need extra money. You got a rookie class. You got to account for injuries. So it could just mean that they're trying to make sure they have a little bit of a nest egg. But we know the Ravens spend to the cap every year, which is kind of funny when I see the commenters calling the Ravens cheap. It's like, how can you call the organization who literally never has any carryover money cheap? Which means they spend the absolute max of what they can spend every year. You can say maybe they're cheap offensively if you want to qualify, but to call them cheap is nonsense. They spend the most you can possibly spend according to the cap every single season. So
all right, so let's get right into this, Glenn. Juju apparently has been connected to the Ravens. A lot of people are saying he was the reason that LJ got cut. I saw Juju playing. Look, I saw Juju live streaming some video game like the kids do. I'm not up on the video game. I don't even know what game it was. It was way too busy for me.
You're not a gamer, but I'm a gamer.
Anything past Mario Kart is way above my head. But he's playing the game, he's live streaming, he's talking, and he said, would it be wrong for me to want to, if I'm not going back to the Steelers, to want to play for a team in the division? Maybe the Browns, and then he said, maybe the Ravens.
Wow.
So it started to stir up some things. You've kind of made your comments known about Juju, but how are you feeling today, as of March 18th, about the potential of bringing in Juju Smith-Schuster? Are you at this point? Is the cupboard getting a little bare, so he's starting to look a little, better, or where are you at?
Well, as Adam78 points out, Keith Williams, I think, or maybe it was it T? Was it T Higgins that was he at USC when T Martin? I'm sorry, why do I keep calling him T? T Martin may have been with Juju at USC. I'm not sure.
Keith Williams was at USC.
Keith Williams. Okay. Yeah. So, so maybe as a player, I don't know how you really dislike the guy. I mean, the guy is tough. He makes the contested catches. He's durable. I think as a player, he's excellent, and he fits apparently he's a vicious blocker from everything I see. I mean, I don't study every play, but apparently what I'm hearing is he's a vicious blocker that takes pride.
Dude, you were right. My bad. T. Martin. Sorry. Let me just get the record straight.
Okay. Yeah. I thought because he was the OC there, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think as a player, I would absolutely love to have a guy like Juju. I mean, that would be great, but I just don't know if he fits in the locker room with all the off the field stuff. And I don't know.
It would be hard to envision him as the vet in the room, right?
It would be hard, but he's still, it's crazy. He's just 24 years old.
That's what I'm saying. He would be our vet, right? Like he would be our most tendered wide receiver. Like it makes me a little nervous. What about you?
No, I mean, it's not ideal, but I think that's another reason they brought these two coaches in, to kind of be that vet in the room if they can't get an older guy. So, I mean, I guess I would be still, but as Deshaun said, he's only 24. I mean, is it unreasonable to think that if they sat down like, look, guy, I mean, we don't mind you doing this stuff and enjoying your life and having your streams and stuff. I have no problem with that. But you can't criticize the opposing team leading up to a game. You can't dance on their logo. You can't do certain things because it doesn't help the team. So the team has to be before your social media account. Mm-hmm. I don't have a problem with you streaming. I think a lot of players probably are getting into streaming. I would imagine. So I don't as a player, and I think he can kind of, and as Jimmy Dean says, it's not like he's getting in trouble. He's just, sometimes having a little too much fun. And I think that's a fair way to say it. I think he can mature. And as a player on the field, I mean, it's hard to not like what he brings. I mean, the guy is big, tough, durable, and he seems very, very competitive. So, I would be in favor of him on the field if they can get him to understand that he's got to tone back some of the social media antics.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and I think we agree. I mentioned this before. I really wanted the Ravens to take Juju coming out of the draft that year, based on his physicality. I mean, he was in the Pac-12, so I saw him play a lot based on me watching. He was in college the same time I was at the U, so watched a lot of him. I know he had some injury things in college, but his athleticism is just off the charts, especially, you think about college and he's playing up against these other guys. He looks athletic in the NFL. Imagine him in college, right? Yeah. So, and his age, like you said, he's so young. So I'm in favor of the move. I'm interested to see, but you also saw that report, right? With the Jets are talking to him.
Yeah. I mean, the Jets are adding some weapons.
Yeah, and they're going to outpay every time. Look, we're going to lose to the Jets in a bidding war, and that's just the way it is. So I'm in favor of it. I guess is what I'm saying. If they had to let go of LJ Fort, because his de facto replacement is really Chris Board, right?
Yeah, and don't forget about Malik Harrison too. I mean,
yeah, not that it isn't nice to have both of them, but if I had to get rid of LJ to make room for Juju, I'm all right with that. I don't know how you feel about that, but I'm fine with that. So I guess Deshaun91 just said the Jets signed Cole. They're out on Keelan Cole.
Okay, Keelan Cole. Yeah, he's a good player.
Sounds like they might be out on Juju.
I mean, I think the reason that people are asking why he's out there is because he's asking for too much, which is why he probably won't end up here in Baltimore,
right? Unless
he's willing to take like a 1 year. See, with his age, he can afford to take a 1 or even 2 year deal, and still go back into free agency at just 26 years old. And this would give him a kind of a chance to stick it to the Steelers a little bit after he probably feels a little slighted the fact that he didn't. I mean, he's coming off a year where he had 97 catches, Jimbo. I mean, he's probably like, what does a guy got to do? I mean, my goodness. I mean,
well, so what about this? What about this, Glenn? So do you think there's the number one receiver? One of our commenters brings it up. Juju doesn't answer the number one wide receiver problem. Is there a number one wide receiver problem? Because I know that
we're not going to answer that in the free agency. That problem is answered in the draft.
I agree with you there, but let me ask you this: If Juju is our guy and we don't take a wide receiver in the draft, right? You've said this before a lot, and I think it's an important point, is that we led the NFL in passing touchdowns with a ragtag squad in 2019, a ragtag core, not a ragtag squad. In 2019, think about it, Hollywood was a rookie. Seth Roberts, Boykin was a rookie. Willie Snead, Chris Moore. Willie Snead was at the beginning of the season our slated number one.
And he's coming off a couple really bad years in New Orleans. So, yeah, so I mean, it's not as necessary as. Well,
do you think it's a problem?
What do you mean a problem? In what way?
Do you think it's people talk about this having a number one and not having number one is a problem, right? So, do you think it's a problem with the Ravens the way they're constituted right now?
I mean, it would be nice if we could have a guy on the outside that can beat one-on-one. If they're going to load the box and force you to throw. It would be nice to have a guy that you can trust that can go, take on a cornerback and win his one-on-one battles. And I don't know if we have that on the roster right now, but
got you.
But I just don't think you solve that in free agency unless you get lucky Juju's market shrinks and he's willing to take a 1 or 2 year, a little bit less money deal. But even then, I mean, are you really getting a number one with Juju, or are you just getting? But I still think he checks the box of what we need out of that. We need a tough guy who can make those catches over the middle, those contested catches. We don't have that other than Andrews.
Yeah.
On the roster, we just don't. I mean, Duvernay, I think, has some ability, but we haven't really given him enough a chance to really see if he can do it at a higher rate than what he's done. Although he's impressed, thus far. So I think that we just need to hope that the Ravens keep taking shots in the draft. I think Sarah Ellison said since Eric DeCosta's taken over, no team has drafted more wideouts than the Ravens. So I think fans have to remember that they are taking more shots at it. And I think really what it was is last year, we were hoping they'd take some more shots earlier instead of waiting until when did they get Duvernay? The third round. Was it the third? Okay, yeah. So I think that they were hoping that they'd take a couple more shots. But look, Harry Holland points out Deion Kane and Victor Benjamin. If you're telling me they're signing a guy, we expect them to draft a guy, then both those futures are definitely going to be cut because they're not keeping more than 6. A lot of times they only keep 5, depending on how many tight ends or running backs they end up keeping. So there's 4 locks on the roster unless you consider Boykin not a lock, which I'd be okay with that. But with his recent pick, I think he's still likely going to make the team. So, yeah, I mean, I just think that you got to keep taking shots in the draft and hope you hit in the draft because you're not going to sign a wide receiver 1 in free agency and pay him $20 million when you see Lamar Jackson's contract around the corner and you see Andrews' contract around the corner. It doesn't make sense. Unfortunately, as much as I'd like to see a 1 here, and I'd feel, I mean, it's crazy to me that we've never had a true number 1 here in Baltimore. It just drives me absolutely nuts. So I'm hopeful, but it's going to have to happen in the draft. It just does.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. But the one thing, I wanted to be clear about is I think that the single best thing, and I was tweeting about this yesterday, the single best thing we can do for our offense is it's not as simple as get Lamar weapons, get Lamar weapons, get Lamar weapons. Not as simple as that. But I do think it's as simple as if it were a state of fact that we had the best offensive line going into the season and they stayed healthy.
Yeah.
I need, of course, I'd love to have upgrades on in the wide receiver core, but to me, that O-line is much more important because look, once again, what was the difference between 19 and 20? There wasn't a crazy difference in the receivers when, some people say, well, last year we were last in the league.
The core got better.
Right. Exactly. At least, on paper. Right.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with you. They did get better, but people say, well, we were last in passing last year. Those are just counting numbers. Right. But really at the end of the day, what changed is you lose a Hall of Famer at right guard. Your center gets the yips. Your left tackle goes down with an injury and your right tackle has to go to left tackle. That is what makes the difference. To me, I understand we need guys, like you said, to beat one-on-one coverage, but nothing matters if Lamar can't stand back there with confidence in the guys that are in front of him and be, Lamar isn't going to start tap dancing and then go down, but he's going to start taking off and not hitting his check down and not hitting the easy passes. And, it's going to get in his head. Not that we won't be productive because Lamar's amazing, but what needs to happen is our offensive line needs to be stout.
Yeah.
More than just get Lamar weapons. I don't think it's just that. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think that needs to be made clear because I see it I'm sure you do too, all over social media. Get Lamar this guy. The Ravens aren't getting Lamar anyone. Lamar has empty cover. This, that's that. We just signed a Pro Bowl right guard.
Yep.
And I don't think we're done on the offensive line. To me, that's what I want to see. So anyway, I just kind of want to get that off my chest.
No, that's cool. I mean, so when you look at Orlando Brown, because I think if he gets moved, then you have a whole nother big hole in the roster. But I know he's here right now. But did you look at that comments by Eric DaCosta? Was that posturing, or do you really think that they're gonna hold him to his contract and ask him to play right tackle again this year, whether he's happy or not?
Man, that's a great question. I think I will answer that question. Let's get to couple of these chats real quick. Does that work for you?
Yeah, throw it up there.
All right. So Phil Uimedi says the thing is we had the best rushing attack in the league the last 2 years. We don't need the number one passing attack. We can get by with a middle of the pack. I just want someone that's reliable. So my question back to you, Phil, would be, someone that's reliable, would that be like Glenn said, someone that is able to beat one-on-one coverage, someone that's just there every week? Like, to me, I think what needs to happen, and this might drive with what you're saying, Phil, is that when you say someone's reliable, when it's 3rd and 9, Glenn, everyone knows one of two things is going to happen. Lamar's going to take off and make 8 people miss, right?
Yeah.
Or Andrews is going to get the ball.
Well, I think Hollywood has a shot at it.
Sure, there's a 10% chance that Hollywood will get the ball.
Stop it.
But normally though, it's going to Andrews if it's leaving Lamar's hands in a.
Well, I would hope it's not that obvious, or the defense would do a lot better job and not let us get to 11 wins every year.
But having someone and having someone that could lighten that load for him is, I think, what you and I have talked about, and that could be maybe what Phil's addressing here. Don't you think?
No, yeah, I think what he's saying is he just wants a guy that will catch the ball when it's thrown to him, and including those tough catches instead of, he got knocked away. It was a tough grab. That's why he dropped. Well, whenever you look on SportsCenter, you see these guys making tough catches for their quarterback, and that makes their quarterback. And it goes both ways. So sometimes you got to make a tough catch for your quarterback and help him out. I mean, that's what you're paid here to do, is to go up and get the ball. And when you can't count on your guy to do that, especially against single coverage, let's remember, cornerbacks are almost always the smaller guy in the matchup when they're matched up against the receiver. Unless
have
Hollywood, yeah. But for the most part, they're the smaller guy. So you expect a guy like Miles Boykin to just, I don't care that there's a guy on me. I mean, Boykin doesn't even look like he wants the ball or is ever expecting the ball. And as Sarah Ellison pointed out, he's lined up. He doesn't even know the play, and he just lined up. And then he's shocked when the ball is thrown his way or thrown a different direction. It's like,
bro,
I mean, at least get the play. And if you don't, ask your buddy next to you. Don't just line up.
Have you seen the video with Zion in high school, and the little kid tries to go up?
Oh, yeah.
And the little kid's like, yeah, and his face is like up to his waist. And Zion looks at him like, are you this guy's gonna guard me? Like that needs to be Miles Boykin's attitude.
It should be every wideout's attitude. Like this guy can't guard me.
Especially when you're so big. Jimmy Smith to me is probably one of the tallest corners in the league at a true 6'2".
Yeah.
Right? Like he's got to be one of the taller ones.
I think he's taller than me.
Yeah, Miles Boykin is still taller than him. You know what I mean? And so anyway, I agree with you 100%. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens there, but I think to remedy this issue is not so there's not a direct correlation to get Lamar Jackson weapons on the outside is not to remedy this issue, right? To me, to remedy this issue is to improve the offensive line and then work on the outside end. So let's get to this next one here. I'm interested to get your thoughts on this. YPC Dro, Ravens never have that same energy on offense than they do on defense. Ain't gonna lie to you, I tend to disagree with this one, but I'd like to get your thoughts, Glenn.
I mean, when are we talking about? Because I just don't know. Maybe we have some enthusiastic guys on defense, but I think offense. I mean, there's certainly moments where they're pretty hype and they're bringing the energy. I'm not really sure what that means because let's remember we did have the number one scoring differential in the league both the last 2 years. So I think that the offense has to play their part in that. But yeah, so I'm not really sure what he means by that.
I think that there is a difference in that, the tone here has been set for so many years by the defense, by the staples of the franchise that we have that have been on the defense side of the ball. But I don't think it's fair to say they don't play with the same energy. I mean, I think Orlando Brown is the most animated offensive lineman that I've seen in the league. And I mean, when he's in the camera saying, feed me as an offensive lineman, and he's pounding his chest saying, run behind me. Like, I think they got some energy up front. I think
it's probably just easier defensively to show that because you're usually the hammer and the offense is the nail. So it's probably just easier to get up and get hype after a defensive play because you're hitting somebody.
Unless you're Patrick Ricard, right?
Yeah. Now Pat Ricard, he'll show a little bit of hype too when he lays out a smaller defender on the edge there. So
now what about Goman here? I don't know if this was to you or to I, but if it's all right with you, I'm going to address this one. Go ahead. First here. So as you guys see on the screen, so you don't feel comfortable with Hollywood being our true number one. Isn't he still developing? I totally agree with that. And the end of the year showed me something with Hollywood being able to do the intermediate and the short stuff and not just being able to, apparently they've been limiting Lamar according to David Culley. So Roman having the confidence that he can give him the ball in those scenarios, but also Hollywood showing that he's not going to go down. He's not going to go out of bounds. He's going to try and make a guy miss in space, run through a couple arm tackles, and do everything he can to move the chains. So it's not that I'm not comfortable with him being on number one. I think that when you're talking about number one pass catcher, if our team stays the same, it will always be Mark Andrews. I think Mark Andrews is our number one pass catcher, but I think and I hope that Hollywood continues to develop. I'm not comfortable with the core. Let me just say this. Let me back up. Glenn, I'm not panicking about who we have. I'm okay if we go in. I'm not going to be comfortable if they don't show improvement, but I don't need new faces. I need them to play better. And I need improvement on the offensive line. Like if I have a need, an absolute need, I need a staple at center. If I have a want, I would like, a new weapon or two, but like a new weapon, right? But I need improved offensive line play, and I need those guys to get better on the outside. But I don't need new faces. That's where I'm at with it. I'm not ready to blow up shit because I think Boykin can show improvement. I think Duvernay is going to splash this year. I think Prochet is going to have some plays this year. And then I think Hollywood's going to get a lot better, and all that's going to help Mark just be open more. So that's where I'm at with it.
Well, as far as Hollywood being a true number one, I do think he is still developing. I look, we were very high on Hollywood. I think he's got a bunch of things that you can have or that lead you to being a number one. The one thing I don't know if he has yet, and you have to have it as a small guy, is kind of like that toughness, that that grittiness that where like Steve Smith had and Tyreek Hill has, and even though they're smaller, they play so much bigger. I think he's got the hands for the job. I think he's got the route running, the top end speed. I just don't know if he has that grit to him that you need at that size to be a number one guy. I mean, most guys that are 6 to 8 inches taller than him have that grit, and they have the speed. That are number ones. They have the speed. They have all that. Plus, they're 8 inches, 6 inches taller than him. I think that he still needs to show he's got that to where, and he's kind of a soft-spoken guy. So I don't know if he's, like you mentioned, like if they're going to one-on-one cover me, that is disrespectful. Throw me the damn ball. Like that's what I want to. That's the kind of. I think he needs to have that kind of attitude. And he's got to show that toughness because he's got tools, but I don't know if he has that personality. I guess that's what he is to make him a true one.
Yeah. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see as he continues to grow into being a professional football player, right? Like I think sometimes some of these things take time. Harry Holland said, I think he was talking about the spending on defense. And Glenn, you bring up a good point about this. I think it's an age thing. Maybe you can talk about how that will shift.
Yeah, I saw Tanya mention it too. The spending. I don't know if you guys are new to the team, but it's only because Lamar isn't being paid yet. I mean, just go back a few years in 2014 when Joe Flacco cashed in on that big check. The offense was the higher paid side of the ball, not the defense. And it went on that way for a few years until they addressed Joe, and Joe was then gone. So I mean, just wait 2 years. If you're not happy with the money that it's being spent on the offense, wait 2 years because it's going to flip. And you're going to see a lot more of the cap being eaten up by the offense with guys like Andrews and, of course, Lamar Jackson, maybe JK, maybe Hollywood if they decide to extend, which I think they will, judging by his improved play and of course, his relationship with Lamar. That doesn't hurt. But just wait a couple days and you're going to – a couple years and you're going to see a massive change. And then they're going to be saying, why don't we spend any money on defense? It's just hard to, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think it's only a matter of time before that's no longer, possible to go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I've said this before, but Ravens are far and out and above the best team at production, yardage production for dollars spent. Right. And all of that has to do with, think about how hyper productive Lamar Jackson is in getting yards. Right.
Yeah.
And then turn around and look at his contract. But when you multiply that by 40, right? Yeah. Or by say, 20, whatever the case may be, his base last year, I don't even remember what it was. But it's whatever it is right now to the 20th degree. You know what I mean? That's what you're looking at paying. That's going to shift the pendulum.
And then and then everyone's going to say, we can't stop anyone. Why don't we spend any money on defense? It's just kind of how it is right now. It's just the timing, just like Orlando Brown. It's all about the timing right now. The timing is the defense is getting paid because we got a bunch of cheap, productive offensive players, and then that's going to switch, and then we're going to have cheap, productive defensive players to support the expensive, productive offensive players. That's just how it is.
Right. No, absolutely. So I don't know if this is breaking to you what your thoughts are on my comment, but I'm glad I finally said it. Is that once again? I'm okay if we go in this year and don't get this might be different, but don't get another weapon offensively. I got high hopes for these guys. Are you there as well, or are you at the point where you're like, no, whether it's draft or free agency, we need another guy in there?
No, we need another guy. I want him to keep drafting. We still don't have that body type that you're looking. We still don't have that complement to all the speed guys that we have. We hoped it would be Boykin. It's clearly not going to be him. I don't think he's going to all of a sudden learn how to play to his size overnight. I think that's who he is. That's the guy he is. So we need to find that guy. And honestly, it's the best place and the only place right now is the draft, because there's just even the cheaper options that I wasn't in favor of. Like you mentioned, you wanted AJ Green. He's gone. I mean, it just, I don't, and the guys that I think would have really helped us are just too expensive. And look, their own teams aren't paying them because they're too expensive. So, I don't think that, I don't know. I think we need to add somebody to the room, and I'm hopeful it's through the draft. And I think this might mean the end of the tight end experiment. It might, but it doesn't guarantee that, because they could cut him and not lose anything. So, but you're saying you're that confident. You're that confident that oh, look, Ing Raven comes in. He still loves Boykin. Why are you? I think he's goofing. There's no way you still like him. But anyway, okay, you want to get to this comment?
Yeah. I still love Boyka. Yeah, I just saw that. But wait a second. Before we get to this comment, though, so I wouldn't say confident is the right word. I'm optimistic about it. Once again, I just want to clarify that, like, for me, I think there's only so many things you can do. The money, you can only stretch $1 so far, right? So if there is a need, I'm going to be woefully upset. I mean, very mad. You guys will see me irate on this show if we do not, whether it's through free agency or the draft, improve the center position. I will do very violent things. I'm not to my computer screen.
Okay.
All right. I'm not going to be happy about it, right? Like I'm just not going to be okay with that. I think that will happen? No, I think we will improve at the center position. But what I will say is that I am optimistic that if we don't do anything, whether it's, in the pass catching category, tight end, wide receiver, that gets everybody excited, I feel good that across the board, we talk about how young they are. That also means that their rate of improvement should also be great, right? Yeah. We talk about the jump between year 1 and year 2 in a typical year. Think about the jump for Devin Duvernay and James Prochet. It's going to be with the new coaches, with a true off season, with all that ramp up they have, and it's year 1 to year 2. I really am optimistic around the improvement of those guys, because if all 4 of those guys can improve substantially, it doesn't have to be crazy, right? But substantially, I think we're there. I think we're better from a passing standpoint as long as the offensive line is intact than 2019. I think that they're better, but it has to start with the O-line. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. So okay. I'm optimistic. I'm not confident, but I'm optimistic about it. Anyway, we can get to this if you want.
Yeah, a YPC draw, I think clarifying, said what I meant by that, Ravens never go all out on offense, and they do on defense. Ravens always never get that guy on offense, but always do on defense. Well, I guess I'm thinking he's meaning through free agency, because I think we got that guy on offense in Lamar Jackson. I think we got that guy in Mark Andrews, and I think it looks like we got that guy in J.K. Dobbins. So I think there's a lot of guys we do get right on offense. The one spot we haven't is wide receiver. But, I mean, just look at how many good tight ends have come through Baltimore. I think we have one of the most electrifying players in all of sports in Lamar Jackson. So I think they have that guy. We just haven't had that guy at wide receiver. And I agree. It's crazy. It drives you nuts. It makes you want to beat your head against the wall sometimes. But the good thing is the Ravens have addressed it. They've recognized it, and they're doing everything they can in bringing in these coaches to address the problem. So,
yeah. Well, I want to shout out King Apugo. I like this one. Defund the defense. That was pretty good. You guys keep them coming in. This is awesome. Shout out King. Always bringing the contrarian view. So once again, I think like Glenn said, just wait, right? Just wait until Lamar's contract.
What is it? The scale. Hits. The scale it's going to swing back the other way. Harry Holland says, I would like to draft Josh. I'm not sure what that says to be our ex. I don't know who that.
Yeah, we'll do some research.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a typo or a real name. If that's, I mean, I guess it's possible it could be a real name, but we're gonna try and find that name out.
Yeah, and next week, make sure you guys tune in, because Glenn and I are really gonna be polishing up our draft stuff to be able to give you guys the good stuff in the coming week for sure. So this is interesting. In 2019, this is Skeptic Go, our guy, always chiming in. In 2019, teams did not respect LJ's arm, Lamar Jackson's arm, and they blitzed more and played man. Beat teams with speed. In 2020, they played zone, and that requires more intelligent wide receiver play. They need 50-50 guys now. So one thing I don't have, and it'd be interesting, maybe we can get a hold of this, Glenn, and do in a follow-up, we can see the breakdown of the percentage. I'm sure there's somewhere we can figure out the percentage of the defenses. The percentage breakdown between man and zone. Not saying that I don't believe you, Skeptic Goat, but I would like to see what the differences are.
We might have to call Ken, have Ken on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. Ken McCusick would be the perfect guy to have. But the one thing I'll say in rebut to that, now that I've kind of dug my heels in on my point about the wide receiver core, once again, intelligence, what's the best teacher, Glenn? It's experience, right? What all these young guys have 1 year more under their belt of experience. I'm not expecting, these guys to come in and be first ballot Hall of Famers, all of them to be all pros, but I do think they will be more intelligent. I think that you're going to see a serious jump. I said it before, between Prochet and Duvernay. Yeah, it might be saying a lot to put a couple of eggs in the basket of Prochet, who's a former 6th-round pick, but I don't think it's saying a lot for a guy that's been compared to Steve Smith by our GM and was a 3rd-round pick, to say Devin Duvernay is going to carry a big portion of this load when it comes to the passing game next year, and I think the Ravens are expecting him to do so. So I think that is the most likely scenario by which you get more intelligent wide receiver play. I don't think we can afford it. And
no.
I'm
it's
not going to
be, but I like his point with the name. I think I understand what he's saying, that, like you mentioned, those 2 young guys, especially Duvernay and Prochet, with no offseason, it's hard to then, go through all and get them to understand what you're going to see out there with these defenses in the NFL. They're not used to seeing this complex defenses that they're seeing now. They're used to seeing some vanilla packages on back in college. So I think you're right. It becomes those option routes where they say, they tell the receiver, you're going to get up, to here. You're going to go 5 yards up. And then depending on what this guy does, you'll do this. If he does this, then you'll do that. If he does this, then you'll sit here. And they have to understand to be able to make that and do it quickly, make it so second nature that they can play fast instead of thinking out there. And then they're playing slow. And then Lamar's getting rid of the ball because he's expecting you to be here. And then it's just an incompletion. So, but I do agree in the sense that they need a guy who can make the 50-50 catches on the outside. We don't have a guy. I mean, I'm looking around. We don't have a 50-50 guy on the roster on the outside. Just don't have it. And Mark Andrews, I think he can do it. But there's also times where he's getting so much attention that they do get the ball out of his hands. And there's sometimes where I'm like, man, hang on to the ball, Mark. This is why, you want to be. So there's times where he's getting so much, and they knock the ball out and drives me crazy. We need some guys that can, on the outside, that can be big, physical, and they can beat a guy even if he's on them. And even the ball isn't thrown so perfect to where they can catch him in stride and keep going. He can just go up and take it from a guy and say, this guy is not big enough or good enough to guard me. That's what we need.
So I think that I want to draw a comparison here before we get to the next question. Last night, I don't know if you saw the Philly Bucks game, the 76ers Bucks game last night went into overtime.
Saw parts of it, yeah.
Giannis shut it down in overtime. The one thing that Giannis did at the end of the game, what's the criticism of his game? He can't shoot, right?
Yeah.
But there's a difference between Giannis and Ben Simmons, to me. There's only really one main difference, and that is that Ben won't even shoot it.
Yeah.
Ben won't even try it. At the end of the game, Giannis hit a 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that did everything for their next possession. So as far as spacing goes and opening up the lane, because they knew, look, he hit one, he might hit another one.
Yeah.
So he only needs to be respected. He never needs to be JJ Redick behind the line, right? Just respected. So our offense only needs to do enough in the passing game to keep the defense guessing, to keep them honest. It's not like we need all these guys out there because we're so good in the run game. We're historic in the run game, but we do need that improvement to where it's more than just Mark. So anyway, that's kind of how I see things going with the guys that we have. But shout out to Asmodeus the Notice. He defected for your Baconator needs.
Hold on, Baconator. That's Wendy's. That's
I know.
Man, I'm calling Mickey D's right
now.
Dude,
it's funny, Glenn, because every time I think of Wendy's, I think of back in the day when we would go play ball at the church and grab Wendy's from the Wendy's right there near the building where we were hooping.
Yep. Yeah. Dude, their spicy chicken sandwich is still second to none. I don't care what anyone says. I love their spicy chicken. But let's get to Jake Rooks. He says, to be honest, I think the Ravens are downplaying our wide receiver coaches or hires. The fact that they keep hearing that they can't develop wide receivers is obviously getting to them. And I want to see us develop Terrence Marshall Jr. And I completely agree. They are done with it. Just like they were done with watching King Henry run all over everyone, spin Earl Thomas around, use him as a lead blocker. They were done with that bull crap. And what did they do? They went out, addressed it, and they shut that dude down the very next season, held him to ridiculously low totals, something that no one's been able to do against Derrick Henry. So the fact that they're committing that same level of commitment to this is it's got to be encouraging. I don't know how fans aren't encouraged by that. To me, it's a clear indication that they're done with this narrative and they're going to address it. And until it's improved, they're going to keep addressing it. So I agree. And I hope it's through the draft. And if Terrence Marshall ends up here, I would be elated, or someone similar to him. And he's a guy who is fantastic in the run or in the red zone. He's fantastic at the 50-50 balls. He's the exact type of player we need. Big, fast, strong, that can high point a ball. So I agree with you, Jake. And we appreciate your comment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Tim's just feeling generous tonight. No comment.
Just shouting out.
Yeah, just appreciate you, Tim. Always letting us know he's here. And then let's see. I don't want to skip any.
I think Skeptic Goat is the next
guy.
There it
is. Yep.
Oh, well, no. Here we go. Hold on. This is Harry Holland just followed up. He plays for Illinois. 6'3", 225.
That's his real name. Wow.
We'll have to go check him out. Harry, make sure you're on next week, and we'll probably talk about a couple of prospects from each position. Maybe we'll bring him up. So certainly, make sure you tune in next week as well, and we'll provide you with some more information. But based on what you
pronounce that, do you think? I don't even want to try because I'll probably butcher it.
Yeah,
But wow.
I don't know.
And then, did you see this one? Did you get this one? I'm not sure.
That was going to be the next one where I was going.
Yeah. So Jonathan Adams Jr. apparently is similar to. I don't want to say it because they're both 50-50 studs. Well, Here we go. Okay.
Immorta Bebe.
Immorta Bebe. Okay.
I bet you I'm pretty close.
Oh, you're just guessing. I thought somebody maybe typed it out.
No.
Okay.
Immorta Bebe.
All right. Well, I'll check them out. I mean, we're going to, like you said, it was kind of all about free agency right now, but we're certainly going to dive into it. And if you guys are interested, check out a video we did with the guy from Draftplex, who is the number 3 rated draft expert in the country, higher than pretty much anyone you can see on TV. They had a list. They were all on it, and they were all well behind our guy, I think Jason Pruitt from Draftplex. So check out our video with him, and we're going to have him back on. At least that's the plan. When we get a little bit closer to the draft, because he's about as good as it gets in the country, and just phenomenal accuracy. So check that out.
And then of course in 8 minutes we're gonna have our Jacksonville Jaguars wire insider to talk about Josh Oliver. This is King stays with the fire, man. I tell you what, he's cracking me up.
A fan of your boy.
Oh, no, not at all. I don't want Roman anywhere near young receivers. And you know what, King? I'm going to say this. Maybe John Harbaugh agrees with you. And that's why he brought in not one guy, but 2. Really, right? Like, I mean, Cully was doing the job of these 2 guys, right?
Yeah, and he did it so good, he became a head coach, Jimmy. That's how good he was.
Bum. Jeez,
but no, I think that I think you're good, King, because I don't think he's going to be he's going to be close to him on the practice field, and I'm sure they'll be in meetings, but he's not going to be getting much one-on-one time with these young guys. I think they got plenty of attention from T. Martin and Keith Williams.
I think I got it right. Skeptic Goat. Immorta Bebe.
Immorta Bebe. Okay. All right.
It's pretty close, right?
Wow. So you kind of nailed it. That's wow. Look at you.
Hey,
Oh, did you say BB or did you say Bebe?
I said Bebe. I think I said Bebe. I think I did.
Okay.
Either way. But shout out King for sure. That's that's a good thought. And John Harbaugh might have the same one. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I couldn't tell you, but he might have the same thought.
Well, I think if he had that thought, he would be gone. I would assume. But what do you think about? Let's see. Where's that list? I just saw somebody had a list. Oh, there it is. What do you think about outside of? I know how you feel about Justin Houston, but why is Ryan Kerrigan not getting any talk right now? I looked him up because somebody else pointed him out, and I'm not sure why he doesn't get any love. I don't see him on any list when I pull up lists of. I'd have to really go to like the 3rd and 4th page to even find the guy, because he's not listed as a top free agent. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it has to do with his. I think he's had some injury problems in the past, and also with his advancing. I mean, not that he's old, but he's older.
Let me see.
I think that could have to do with it. I think just the coinciding.
He's almost 33. Yeah.
Right, the age with the previous injuries is I really think what it comes down to. And he wasn't on. Well, I mean, he was on a decent team last year, but I think he was overshadowed by a lot of those other guys up front.
Yeah, I think that's probably the issue. He played in 16 games, surrounded by stud after top 10 pick after top 10 pick, and he ends up with 5.5 sacks. I mean, it's not like it's the worst year, but if you play in 16 games and you're supposed to be a big time pass rusher, you'd think he'd get a little more than 5.5, surrounded by Sweat and Josh Allen or Jonathan Allen rather, Chase Young. Who else is there on that front? They got monsters everywhere on that front. So Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just his age. But I mean, the fact that he's been really healthy. You look at his career, dude. He played in all 16 games in 1, 2.
I must be
3,
thinking about someone
4,
else. I thought he was
5,
a little nicked up
6, 7, 8.
recently.
He played his first 8 years. He didn't miss a start in his first 8 years. He missed 4 games in 2019, but then played in all 16 last year. He only started 1, but he played in all 16. But in saying that, he only had 17 total tackles in 16 games.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think like you said, it's he was just overshadowed. He's going to be 33. I think he has a hankering for McBangers is what it really is. And they're like, you know what, man, you need to chill out with the McBangers. Shout out to Chris Madry, always on. That's right. Go out there and get your McBanger tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe not, but give it a try.
Is that the McRib and the? Is that what?
No. It's a McDouble with a McChicken in the middle.
Yeah. Okay. Ugh,
you got to try it at least once in your life. All right.
Okay, I mean, I get if you're there, I'll try it. But if you're not
you can't
there, I'm
knock
not
it till you try it. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
No, and then Christopher Shook mentions that that he only played in 30% of snaps last year. I think a lot of that has to do with they were pretty deep on the D line, and so that might have something to do with the way people are envisioning him, right? Maybe he's just a specialist at this point.
Well, this could be alarming for him. He played, like you mentioned, he played just 38% of the defensive snaps, but he played a career high 22% of special team snaps. So my man's going the wrong way on,
that's a problem.
Yeah, that's not good. So maybe, I don't know, something could happen though. I mean, if they need some leadership and they can get him at the right price, I guess. But yeah. He's not going to move the needle for me. He's not going to get me like, oh, okay, well, at least we got this guy now. We got a pass rusher. No, he's not going to bring that. But if you look out who's available, I mean, Clowney, Melvin Ingram, do you have any interest in either one of those two?
I think Clowney is going to end up, somebody's going to pay him again. Somebody's, you know what I mean? Till he's 33, he's going to keep getting, it's going to be too costly for a team like the Ravens to bring him in because somebody that's irresponsible and less intelligent is going to pay him.
Yeah, I think I agree. Yeah, Kerrigan cheeks. Okay, all right. Oh yeah, look, Ray Jack says create the McBanger for $3.
That's right.
Not bad, Jimmy. They're requesting a sentence in Spanish in the chat. I see this a lot. So I don't know what you want to say.
Glenn's heard me speak Spanish all the time. My wife and I speak Spanish to each other, and Glenn always
they do it right in front of me. I say, stop it. If you speak Spanish in front of me, I'm going to assume you're talking about me. So stop doing it.
And just for all of you that have friends that do speak other languages, just know that normally it's like, it's weird because sometimes I don't even realize when we're switching back and forth, but a lot of times contextual. Like a lot of times when we're talking about food, for some reason, we just shift that way, or like certain conversations, it really normally, now I'm not saying it doesn't ever happen. There are times when I see somebody acting a fool.
I knew it.
But I promise I'm not. But I can say more than a sentence, whatever you want. Lo que quieren ustedes, yo aquí hablo el español hasta que vengan las vacas a la casa y como quieran, ¿no? Pero bueno, yeah. So there's Los Cuervos, los Ravens van a ser los mejores.
And if you really want to hear it, he did do a show with the Ravens.
Good point.
Who'd you do that with?
So it's the Spain, the official Spain football club, fan club of the Ravens. So they're in Madrid, Spain, or in Madrid, Spain, España. Yeah, however you want to call it. But yeah, that was cool. All in Spanish.
Yeah, look at that. So if you really want to hear it, I had to sit that one out for obvious reasons. I mean, I was going to sit there with my freckles and just stare at the camera. I mean, not knowing a daggone word of any.
Look, and now when you guys watch the games, you can say "Vamos Ravens, Vamos Ravens." There you go. You can say that. The one thing I'll say, Glenn, I got one bone to pick. So people, when they talk about the Ravens, they'll call them the Cuervos. Cuervo, the literal translation is a crow. I tell everyone. So like for work, I've spent time down in Mexico, and I'll tell everyone, look up a crow and look up a raven, bro. A raven will eat that crow for freaking breakfast. All right. So that's my only bone to pick. Like, oh, vas para los Cuervos. That means like, oh, you root for the Ravens. Like, yeah, voy para los Ravens, no para los Cuervos. Like, I root for the Ravens, not for the Crows. That's my only bone to pick.
Okay. All right. He said, King came in with the Yo quiero Taco Bell.
Yo quiero Taco Bell. I'm going to teach you one of these days, Glenn. You're going to get it.
All right.
That's I know those as a McGang.
Oh my goodness.
All right, let's go Ravens.
Okay.
We'll go back to this one. How about that?
Yeah, well, let's go Ravens. Nana, we love you. We appreciate seeing you. But to say that no team goes to bed at night concerned about our wide receivers or offense, if you would have left it at wideouts, I would be okay with that. I understand that the criticism is fair. But to say nor the offense, period, other than Lamar, that's just not true. They have the most complex and productive run scheme in the history of this long, illustrious NFL. I mean, this not back when all they did was run. They still didn't run as good as the Ravens do. So, no, I think you're right about the criticism about the wideouts is fair, but no, not about our offense. We got an offense that keeps people up at night. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Let's see. Let's get to Ray Amenzer. Yeah. This passing game scares me. Need better routes, but optimistic generally. This is our year. Chiefs and Steelers are weak. Only thing stopping us is us. Well, I agree with the only thing stopping us is us. I think it's been that way for a couple years now. And I do think that we need to add the element of a little bit more leadership, I guess, on the offensive side, because it does seem like the offense kind of tightens up a little bit until they're able to get a little bit.
Tighten up.
I guess that's not the right words, but you know what I mean. They get a little tense in the playoffs. It seems
they don't play as loose, and I think it has to do with age.
And that could be a big part of it. They didn't have a lot of veteran leadership across the offense. And importantly, as we've had multiple former players on here, it's important that your leaders are your productive players. So if your best leaders are guys that aren't getting on the field, well, they're not going to make the big impact. But if your best leaders are on the field and they're in the trenches with the guys and they're making plays, then they're easier to be heard from. So I am a little concerned about, them being, it just seems like a little tense in the playoffs until Lamar started taking off against the Titans, then everything loosened up and they started to get a little bit of a confidence and a little bit of swag. But until it just seems like they always come out tight until they start to make plays happen. And then they kind of loosen back up, but it just never came in the Bills game.
Awesome. No, I'm not awesome. Actually, I said awesome because James just said that he's hopping in here in a second. So I'm excited about that. But nice. I agree with you there. There is a certain, it's more of a psychological thing, right? Than a talent thing, almost, to where it's just about getting over that hump, just about maturing. I feel like, and just getting there. I mean, once again, just to make the comparison, like think about what it was like. If you look at OKC back in the day and their roster and what they could have, what they were, you think about all those players that they were so young. It was about getting over that hump. Now you see them as separate pieces, but they're more mature. The Ravens can keep themselves together. I think they can grow into, obviously being a great team and getting all the way home to the Super Bowl. But I'm going to stop flapping my gums like one James Johnson said on our show not too long ago. And we're going to bring in the James Johnson here. Mm-hmm. James, how's it going, man?
What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing? Good to be back on.
Hey, yeah, we're doing good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Can't complain. It's a busy time of the year for me. So, a lot of transactions being made. I mean, I guess that's what you should expect for a 1-15 team, right? But nonetheless, I mean, like just exciting times, going on around the league in general,
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure, like you said, you got to be crazy busy. You guys got the new coaching staff. I mean, everything has been turned over and with a ton of money to spend. But the Ravens just made a transaction with the Jags. I'm sure it wasn't front page news for the Jags, but when you're a Ravens fan, when it comes to offensive free agency moves and getting a weapon, this is front page newsworthy, wouldn't you say, Glenn?
Well, especially for a fan base that's starving for somebody coming here, because they're seeing a lot of guys leaving. So far, only Zeitler came in as a newcomer. So, yes, trading for Josh Oliver, I think, was exciting for some until they looked into it and didn't see a lot of production. So that's why we called you, James, because we're hoping to get a little bit more insight on a little bit on like why the Jags gave up on him, what the Ravens are getting out of this guy. But so take us back. In 2019, he was a 3rd-round pick. What were your thoughts when the Jaguars first brought in Josh Oliver?
Oh, yeah, a lot of us were excited about him because, at the time they had John DeFilippo as the offensive coordinator. And I mean, for the Jaguars, like they've had this issue for many, many years. I mean, dating back to when they let go of Mercedes Lewis, of finding that guy at tight end. They tried to get Julius Thomas. I know you guys remember that. That was a big signing back then. They tried all of these variety of ways. Austin Safarian Jenkins in free agency, and then Josh Oliver came through the draft. So he's a guy that when we got him, a lot of people were excited about him. A lot of people really like the fact that he lined up in the slot predominantly. This is not a guy that's going to do a lot of blocking for you or anything. Not saying like the effort isn't there or anything like that, but when I say he's not going to block for you, I mean, this guy's a true receiver at the tight end position, which I mean, that's kind of common in this day and age. But he was a guy that, I was going to look back at my notes at him, but from what I could gather, he attacked teams from the slot a lot vertically. Like that was his big thing. And he had very good body control. That was one of the things that I can remember about talking about him when he was at San Jose State. And, he's kind of good with just angling his body in ways in which the defensive backs can't get to the ball. And, I think this is a opportunity for him because he's going to a good franchise and a franchise that is good at, coaching up tight ends. I think this is a good opportunity for him. It's just a matter of staying healthy and, getting on the field and just establishing himself and that's what he couldn't do in Jacksonville, essentially.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited about it as well because, and Glenn has talked about this a lot, is that we haven't seen a guy go up and attack the ball other than Mark Andrews for a long time, right? We talk Miles Boykin is this huge guy and he basket catches it, right? So have you, do you consider Josh Oliver as one of those guys that is able to snatch the ball out of the air and kind of use his size and his physical gifts to go up and get it?
Exactly. You're looking at a basketball player here, a power forward. Because you don't really have a lot of film in terms of the NFL to base this off of,
right,
or a lot of practice time on the field for that matter. Because a lot of his time, he spent battling that hamstring injury as a rookie, and then before that, he struggled to get onto the field as well. And he didn't, as a matter of fact, he was injured in the offseason again, and they had to put him on IR. And then all of the new COVID rules and all of that. Basically, he wasn't able to come back. If you started the season on IR, I think that was the rule last year. You couldn't come off if you started the regular season. So they didn't get to see him from that standpoint. He broke his foot in practice. So, I mean, that being said, man, like I said, man, he's a guy, like you said, yeah, he's a guy that'll go up and get it. They frequently did that with him at San Jose State. Just, throw the ball up, let our guy go get it, you know what I'm saying? Or put it in a spot where only he could get it. And 9 times out of 10, he would come up with the ball. So and like you said, he's a guy that'll get vertical as well. So I think you guys got a good one. It's just a matter of, again, he has to stay healthy. And if I can recall, he didn't really have health concerns in college either. It's just coming into the NFL, and I'll have to look back at my notes at that, but I don't think he had like any concerning injuries or anything like that at San Jose State. But sometimes you just your first few years in the NFL, you just get dealt a bad hand, and maybe that's just the case with him. And his career definitely is salvageable, though. I would say from my standpoint.
And what do you think about Phil Wimeti's comments here at the bottom of the screen? So you talked about the hamstring. Were there other injuries that you know of that he was dealing with throughout the season, or was it more about the hamstring and then also the rule, regarding IR that limited his production and time on the field?
So yeah, the hamstring happened in his rookie year, and that kept him out about 4 to 5, 6 weeks into the regular season. I remember him coming back. It was against the Cincinnati Bengals 2 years ago. So it was the hamstring that hurt him. He actually, from what I can recall in his rookie season, he was looking good in training camp despite being a rookie. He had a very good chemistry with Gardner Minshew. Now that I reflect back on it, people were talking about that. And then the hamstring injury came, and it was a real severe one, because we're talking about, after OTAs, I think the injury occurred. So he was out of most of training camp, and he was out of the first 5 to 6 weeks of the regular season. And then last year, the injury he sustained was another one in practice and training camp, broke his foot as well. And again, going back to what I was saying, basically, if you go on IR before the season, excuse me, guys, I got my phone going off here. But if you go on IR, if you go on IR going into the season, which, it was a a season affected by COVID, you couldn't come back. So I mean, and evidently though, he probably had to have surgery on that issue. I have to look back at my reports on that on Jagswire to see if he did. Which I mean, I would assume it was a broken foot. So yeah, he couldn't come back. And I mean, even if you like wanted to bring him back mid-season or whatever the case may be, with a broken foot, chances are he probably wouldn't have been ready anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was a guy that, you know, a lot of people, especially my good friend Phil, who does the Jaguars podcast with me, the Believe in Jags podcast, were upset about that because like he had high hopes for Josh Oliver, and he wasn't the only one. A lot of fans did. But as we all know too, a part of it is he's barely really seen the field. So one of the things that's going to be concerning in terms of what the Ravens is, it's going to take him a while to get the NFL game down pat, because he's only played in 5 or 4 games or something like that. And we've seen it, like a lot of these tight ends take a while to develop. Travis Kelce took like 3 or 4 years to get to the person he is today. You know, same can apply to like George Kittle. Like George Kittle wasn't always the star that we know him to be today. And that's a position that takes slow development. But once it clicks, it clicks. And I mean, I guess what better team to go to than the Ravens for it to click, because they are a tight end factory by the NFL standards.
Yeah, and also a team that lately, at least, has been able to keep a lot of their guys healthy, and through, you know, their strength and conditioning, and also the all grass fields, that definitely helps. So maybe Oliver looked at that as pretty happy to see, man, maybe I can finally get on the field and stay healthy. But let me ask you this: I know they have a new coaching staff in Jacksonville, but just a 3rd round pick a couple years ago, and they're trading him away for a conditional 7th next year that they only recoup if he makes the team. So why do you think they were willing to just throw him out for virtually no compensation?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I looked into that too myself. Like when I saw the aspect of him getting traded, and it's possible for the Jags not to get compensation back for him, that raised the red flag for me. So like a part of me wonder, and I haven't heard anything or have any insider knowledge on this, a part of me wonders if he wanted to see a new, or see a change of scenery as well. You know, maybe that played into it. And, you know, maybe he came to the coaching staff, new coaching staff, like we've already discussed, new front office, by the way, like we've discussed, with Dave Caldwell, the man who drafted him, gone now. Albeit that Trent Baalke was, you know, the lead of personnel there, and now is the GM. He was there last year, but still, like for the most part, you're looking at a whole new front office. So like, I mean, maybe like, you know, and we might find this out later down the road, maybe it was just a simple thing of them wanting to give him a change of scenery, and him wanting to change the scenery. And I mean, it's still kind of shocking, because you look at what Urban Meyer likes on offense, and the kind of athletes he likes on offense, and you know, Josh does fit the mold. So that kind of struck me as interesting in itself. But look, Meyer did say this 2 weeks ago in his press conference, or a week ago. He was saying they want to completely rebuild that tight end room. So, I mean, when you say rebuild a tight end room like that to me says like, you know, anybody could be traded from that room. And, you know, like we're looking at 2 to 3 new bodies in that room, which, you know, that might be why they led to, you know, probably trading Oliver off. I almost called him Allen for some reason, but Oliver off.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And James, we appreciate you coming on. We'll let you go with this one. One of our viewers asked if you would be able to compare him, what you've seen of him, to a current tight end out there. And the way that I would phrase it is maybe like this: if he were to stay healthy and you know, and to mature into a certain player, what do you see him, type of guy do you see him becoming, right? Because it's hard to say who you compare him to, because he's had 3 receptions for 15 yards.
Right. And I kind of like lately I've been kind of straying away with comparisons as of the last 3 draft classes. So I don't want to put that on him right now, but just know that you are getting the guy that at his best, I feel like he's a guy that can provide a lot of vertical help for you guys. I mean, and I love Andrews, by the way, which I don't know, like maybe I think I could ask you guys on this more. So is it that they need a number 2 tight end behind him? Because that kind of struck me as odd that they were looking for another tight end, because to me, he's a pretty good tight end. But again, just not to get sidetracked here though, before y'all get to that. But yeah, Oliver is a guy that I believe, you know, if there is anywhere he could flourish, is probably Baltimore, because of their track record and their history. And I do think like if he becomes what the Jacksonville Jaguars envisioned him to become, and Dave Caldwell did, You guys got a very good vertical threat on your hands, and he could be one of the better vertical threats in football if he can stay healthy and, everything else pans out around him too. You keep your quarterback in place and, all of that kind of stuff that goes into the equation.
Okay. Yeah, I think the idea is just depth with him. But yeah, because you're right. Andrews looks to be in their plans long term, and then of course Boyle. He's still under contract for a few years, and they're very high on him. But I think when they decided to trade Hayden Hurst, when he was displeased and wanted to become a starter and have a bigger role, I think they probably didn't anticipate the loss being as harmful as it was on the field. I think they really missed having that other pass catcher at tight end to go opposite Andrews, and it helps in the deception of the system. And I think that's why they brought him in, just hopeful that they can get another guy to help in that tight end room as a pass catcher more so than a blocker. So
yeah, and I also think it's Eric DeCosta maybe getting a little creative with adding in pass catchers without breaking the bank. Right? Because the distinction, the pay between a receiver and a tight end is so much right now, but the distinction between them, when you're talking about a guy that's running vertical routes out of the slot, is not that. The discrepancy in their pay is not nearly as much as the distinction of their job requirements, right? So I think that it could be just another way for him to get creative and get another pass catcher on the field without spending $7 million for an aging vet in comparison to a guy who's still in his physical prime, and you're giving up a conditional 7th.
That makes sense. I mean, because now that I think about it, it makes sense in the sense that the Ravens are coming up on a time too where they're gonna have to probably pay Lamar Jackson, and we all know sometimes they take up a boatload of the salary cap, which a lot of us have grown to know that the salary cap is a bit fake. But like you said, if it's ever in a year to be creative with the salary cap, though, it's this year, because everybody's basically down $17 million because of the coronavirus last year. And when you look at where the cap was supposed to be, basically everybody lost $17 million. And the only teams that's not affected by it is, the teams like the Jacksonville Jaguars, who don't have a quarterback, who don't really have any big time contracts on their salary or on their payroll. And, it's a little bit different with an established team like the Baltimore Ravens, who have to pay Lamar Jackson, who have people that are, making high figures. Ronnie Stanley is one of them. And it's certainly plenty of others on that team that's making a decent amount of money. So, yeah, why not get creative? Why not try out a guy that, I think it's a testament of that the Ravens also thought that he was a very good athlete when they scouted him.
Yep.
3 years ago. And for me, the Ravens is the best front office to do it. So their intrigue of Josh Oliver, to me, speaks volumes. It speaks that Jacksonville Jaguar fans and Dave Caldwell were on the right path with their thought process. Josh Oliver, he could just never get on the field. And, a lot of respect goes to Eric DeCosta and that scouting team that he has there. And I think, they see potential in him, much like Dave Caldwell and the Jacksonville Jaguars fan base did, which is that's very impressive on his part as a tight end.
Yeah, well, I certainly hope you're right about that. I agree with you as well. I think they have been targeting him for a couple of years and finally got the opportunity to get a hold of him. So, James, we appreciate your time. Why don't you let all those watching let them know where they can find the stuff you're working on?
Yeah, man. JaguarsWire.usatoday.com is where you can find all of that stuff. You can find our podcast, which is the official podcast of the Jaguars Wire. It's called Believe in the Jaguars podcast by the Believe Podcast Network. You can check that out. And feel free to look back at our old podcast before that, because that's where a lot of people want to probably look and see what I said about Oliver when we drafted him. It's Jags Den podcast. It's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to find on the web. But if you want to go back and look back at that 2019 stuff that I said about Josh Allen, feel free to go and check in those podcasts as well, because there are some nuggets in there that we probably left in there about him when he was drafted.
Awesome. Cool. We appreciate it. Thanks again, man, and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely, man. Y'all take care and have a good one.
Thanks, James.
See you, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. It's sounds like he was not so happy to see Josh get traded, but we understand new coaching staff, new GM. Those guys didn't draft him, didn't evaluate him, and obviously
just makes it hard
his
for him.
plans. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So,
Makes it difficult.
but yeah, let's get into. Oh, and by the way, I just want to answer quickly. Papa Shango asked, why did they get rid of Darren Waller? Because he was on drugs when he was here. And thankfully for him, of course, that he's able to clean himself up. But yes, he was admittedly high during performances on the field as a Raven. So it didn't, believe me, they gave him every chance, every opportunity. They're the reason he transitioned to tight end. Right. They're a big part of the reason why he, is one of the highest paid, at that position in the league, and one of the most productive as well, is because they decided to try and convince him to go to tight end. And if he would have stayed clean and sober while here, I'm sure he would still be here. But
yeah. So what do you think? I mean, so Phil's comment here is, you think there's a possibility we could do a 2 tight end set like the Pats might be doing? I think we
already do. Yeah.
Right,
we run probably the most tight end heavy offense in the league, us and the Patriots both similarly, because, and here's why, guys. It's because Bill Belichick, if you look up, they had a leak a few years ago about, his whole, it was like a scouting thing. It was basically his philosophy on football got leaked. And his thing is, you have to dominate the middle of the field. That's where games are won and lost, is the middle of the field. So it makes sense that he likes to have a couple good tight ends. And man, they haven't had a good tight end since Gronk left. And let's remember, they had Hernandez and Gronk, which may be the best tight end tandem in the league until all the craziness started happening. So it looks like he's trying to replicate that in Hunter Henry and Juju Smith. And they got some pretty good ones. I mean, 2 of the most athletic, big, physical tight ends in the league are now there, and it's because they want to dominate the middle of the field. Everybody always wants to say, let's get to the edges. Bill Belichick said it himself. The most important thing is to dominate the middle of the field and then work inside out. So yeah, I think that we already run a ton of 2 tight end sets, and we're going to continue to, and there's going to be 3 tight end sets in there as well with an extra lineman on occasion. So yeah, they like to have the big boys up there.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm really excited to see what happens now that we had James on the call. I'm gonna have my eye on this kid throughout camp and going into preseason and obviously early in the season. I'm hoping that he can fill a void for us. I think it's an opportunity for him and for us. I think that we have a need, and he needs to find his niche, right? Yeah. He needs to stay healthy, and we can provide that to him. He needs opportunities to make plays. We can provide that to him. And we need a guy that's going to go out there and make plays to alleviate the pressure on Andrew when it comes to the middle of the field. So I think it's going to be exciting. I'm hopeful that parties.
And I want to kick this one to you because Brim Vrim has been wanting us to talk about Mr. Jacob Breland, and he keeps throwing him up there. So I want to bring him up because right now, there's a ton of people on our roster. And right now, we have 2 guarantees, obviously, Mark Andrews and Nick Boyle. And then after that, it's a bunch of guys. We got Eric Tomlinson, we got Jacob Breland, Eli Wolf, and now Josh Oliver added to the mix. And they're all going to be looking to compete for maybe 1 to 2 spots. I mean, I think it's likely we'll certainly keep 3 tight ends, but could keep 4 as well, as if they go a little light at running back and maybe keep 3. I think they kept 5 running backs or something last year, if we remember. Or no, 4. The Patriots kept 5. But yeah, so what are your thoughts on? Do you think it's just like a competition? It's going to be between those guys competing out for that final spot or final 2 spots, or what do you give? What are your thoughts on Breland in specifics?
So his first name's Jake, right? Isn't it Jake Breland?
Jake, yeah.
Yeah, so he played at Oregon, and I saw him a lot as well. He's certainly athletic. He's in that same vein. He's not going to go out there and pancake anybody like Boyle or Ricard, but he's definitely a vertical threat. The only thing that concerns me about Breland, I know he's a great athlete, and you can look at he's got a ton of highlights at Oregon, but I always get concerned, and I think it's the product of Oregon, is that how many of those plays was he just schemed open?
You talking about Breland?
Yeah.
That was my first thought. I'm glad you said that.
That's my concern.
I don't know. You watched it. I watched the tape. So wide open. I mean, and incredible.
It's not going to happen in the pros.
Exactly. But here's the good thing. He's fast. He's athletic. He was able to, the ball wasn't always thrown on the money, and he had great body control. He was snatching the ball out of the air. So you like all those things. And then the injury happens. And then, 2020 happens. So I think he does have a ton of upside. I think that recently Eric DaCosta, well, somewhat recently, Eric DaCosta was asking about him. And he said he was asking about really all those guys, including Eli Wolf. And he said that basically those guys have a chance to compete for the second or third tight end spot. He called them both just a possibility right now. So I think they're just anything you get out of them is just cherry on top, right? I mean, you're not counting on anything from them, but if either one can turn into a player, then I think both of them have it from an athletic standpoint, but there's a lot more that goes into being a pro football player than just athleticism. And, you look at like a guy like Eli Wolf and people were high on him, but let's remember he played in 14 games in his final season at Georgia in 2019. He finished the season with just 13 catches for 194 yards and 1 touchdown. So it's not like he was, necessarily lighting it up. Now, Breland had a much more productive year before the broken leg. But still, I mean, so both are long shots to me to make the roster. I think it's possible, but I think they're long shots.
Yeah, I agree. I think the tight end room is Oliver, Tomlinson, maybe. I mean, and then you got Andrews and Boyle. I think that those are your 4, right? If we keep 4.
Yeah, if they keep 4.
And I think if it's the 3, I think that Oliver, is going to be the 3rd.
I think if Boyle shows he's back and he feels good and he's 100% healthy, because I think they're looking more for a vertical threat than an additional blocker.
But 2 bits of breaking news here, Glenn.
We got breaking news?
Not about the Ravens, about former Ravens. I was just trying to kind of be sarcastic there. I didn't mean to get you too excited. Sorry, but Rashad Perryman just signed a 1-year, $3 million deal with the Detroit Lions. I was about to say the Detroit Pistons, but Detroit Lions. So going back to play where his dad played. Shout out to Rashad. Hopefully it works out well for him. But also, Joe Flacco is flying out to San Francisco.
I love
it. They're gonna change his name from Joe Flacco to Joe Montana, baby.
Oh my goodness.
Joe's gonna go out there. Look, Torrey Smith is trying to speak it into existence. He's already tweeting out that Joe Flacco's gonna take them to the Super Bowl, baby. Now I don't know how I feel about that, and I'm sure he's being.
I think he's gonna be their starter by week 8 at the latest, though.
Because of Jimmy G is made out of glass.
And because they haven't been necessarily happy with him. But yeah, I think the reason he gets on the field is because Jimmy G gets hurt. But also, let's remember, his best season ever came under Kubiak, and they're running the exact same offense virtually in San Francisco under Shanahan.
How awesome is it going to be to watch Joe? He lights it up.
Dude, he's gonna be perfect in that offense. And here's one thing we can guarantee. That in practice, Flacco will wow everyone with that cannon of his.
And he's going to he's gonna walk in there 6'6".
Yes,
looking like a thoroughbred.
Yeah,
looking next to Jimmy G, he's like, really, dude? Yeah, just slinging it all over the yard, dude.
No one looks as good as Joe Flacco does in training camp and practice because I mean the guy's just got a golden arm just strapped to him, so he's gonna be great there. I'm sure he's happy to see Trent Williams is now guaranteed to be there as his left tackle because now he doesn't have to worry about that left side and getting rolled up on like when James Hurst was last year. So I think they're pretty happy. What?
Lamar Flacco Super Bowl potentially is Tim Odds.
Oh, how hype would I?
Oh man, that would be crazy. I'll tell you what. The other thing I was going to mention is what else was I going to mention here? Somebody else mentioned something that was worth mentioning, and I cannot remember. But I'm happy for Joe. I hope it works out for him out there. Also, like you said before, he's got Alex Mack in front of him now too, right?
He does. I don't know how much I buy into Alex Mack being able to stay healthy, but the good thing is he definitely had his best seasons ever when Shanahan was the OC in Atlanta. And I mean, I guess if you're a Niner fan, the good thing is they were counting on Weston. I think it's Weston Richburg. I messed this up last night. I messed his name up, and I'll probably do it again. I think it's Weston Richburg.
We're just never going to look it up just to keep it going.
Yeah, just keep messing his name up. But he's the center there that they drafted, but he's been banged up. So at worst, they get Alex Mack for half a season, and he can mentor, a guy like Richburg, who they're hopeful can eventually be their center for the future. So I think it was a good move for him, but I don't know how much you can count on Alex Mack being there. But look, this isn't a San Francisco podcast, so
no. I don't want to shout out the old guy, want to shout out the former Ravens. But I think that's all we got tonight, right, Glenn?
Yeah, been an hour and a half. Yep, that's what
but a couple bits of news were all of our episodes that you see on YouTube, we started out as strictly a podcast. We figured we had faces for radio, so we wanted to start out that way.
Yep.
But we migrated over to YouTube and absolutely love it. Love all your guys' support, and shout out to all you guys. We'll get to some names here in a second. And if we don't mention your name, it doesn't mean we love you any less.
That's right.
There's a lot of you guys, so we appreciate you. But just as a quick announcement, in the next week or so, go ahead. You can find us wherever you listen to your podcast, whether it's Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, wherever. We're already up there. We got some old episodes, but everything you see on YouTube shortly will be going back up on the pod. And so we'll have that up soon. So if you want to listen to us in the car, and as well, feel free to do so. Obviously, keep tuning in here and subscribe, but check us out on the pod as well. Just wanted to let you guys know. That's right, Glenn. It's your $5.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I got $5 to buy my wife a McBanger so I can stop looking at Kyle Brandt. I was looking at him this morning. Typically, I wake up with Kyle Brandt right in front of me, not next to me in bed, but right in front of me while I'm still in bed. Him, Kay Adams, Schrager.
J-Dub, you can't do this to Glenn. You can't set Glenn up like this because he's just.
And then baby blues are peeking in on me while I'm still tucking in my covers. I'm still tucking in my covers.
You can't.
Baby blues are peeking at me.
Oh gosh, man! What did you guys look? As you guys get to know Glenn more, oh boy, it's gonna be a ride. I tell you what, you can't set him up like that, J-Dub. You can't.
No, I saw him this morning. Although I didn't like they did a segment this morning that went way too long. They did a fake name, real name. They had like the wildest names from this upcoming draft, and then you had to pick the real name out of a bunch. It went on for 12 minutes to 15 minutes. Let's move on, okay?
And you know what? It's kind of disrespectful to names.
To who? Oh, it is a little bit.
You know what I mean? It's like, why do you get to decide what's a crazy name and a not crazy name?
Some of them were like, the one dude's first name is Tough. His name is Tough.
But that's tough.
No, that's a good thing. Like that was their whole point. They were complimenting the name, not really making fun of them. But yeah, Tough with one F from an Ohio State linebacker. I like that. Now that. No, I wouldn't fight a guy named Tough. See, Tim, Kyle is dreaming. It's hard to disagree. I mean, it's hard to believe. I think he was a running back. I mean, my goodness.
I know. We have a common relative somewhere.
Yeah, and Nana, you're right. We're not going to get too much into that, but yeah, that's crazy. This stuff going on with Deshaun. That stuff is crazy. But we're going to sign up. But J-Dub, we appreciate you always being in here. Nana.
Yep.
Everyone I told a couple buddies, I said, we got a legit Nana who's always with us, riding with us, always keeping us straight in the comment section. So we appreciate you, Nana Rave, Adam James Ring. Yep. Adam 78. A lot of Adams in here.
Tanya Bowman as always. Jay Bird
always in here. And let's see.
Brim Vrim. I don't think we shouted Brim Vrim out before.
No, but we did read his comment. But yeah. Brim Vrim, we see you in here an awful lot. Deep Mahmood is in here all the time. Phil, you know what? You might have to phonetically spell out your name because I don't want to keep butchering your last name. But thank you, Phil, for being in here. As always with us. Chris Griffith, we appreciate you
for sure.
Yeah, King
Skeptic
always keeping us straight. So yeah, we appreciate it. And yes, guys, if you haven't seen Umedi.
I think it's Weemedi.
Okay. Oh, Bill Seals. Yeah, Bill Seals. Dang. I hate to tell you, but we're leaving, Bills. Oh man, he's happy he finally got here. But we're about to sign up. But guys, check out our Sarah Ellison show from last night. She was awesome, brought tons of energy and insight. So
Kevin Hickey we had as an insider for the Giants. Yeah, Skeptic Goat, we gave him a shout out. And then Kevin Hickey, of course, talked about Zeitler and what we're getting. It's nice to have the insider opinion. Hopefully you guys like James coming on. Glenn, this is how we'll end it. All right. J Zal X50 asked what a McBanger is. So I'm just going to let you guys know one more time and we'll drop the mic with this. You take a McDouble. Okay, I'm going to explain it like Ham from Sandlot. You take the McDouble. You open the McDouble. You take the McChicken. You take the patty from the McChicken. You put it in between the two patties in the McDouble. Put together. Enjoy. McBanger all the way, baby. It's a recipe for coronary heart failure, but it's also good. So go check it out.
And shout out to Ing Raven also. You're right. J-Dub, Ing Raven stopped in. He tends to stop in on our lives, so we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
we're big fans of his as well. But that's it for us tonight, guys. But I'm sure we'll catch you soon. Have a good one.
See ya.